I don't know how long ago it was that I told you I was going to prune up this Weigela. I was going to take off the suckers, really clean this area out so that it was not nearly so dark and overgrown in the back and underneath there. But today, basically, I'm just working on this entire area. So I'm actually going to start, I think, at the bottom. And I've got a mound of golden feverfew here that is showing signs of spider mite. So this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to just cut this mound back, and it will probably flush out again from the root zone here. It'll send out some new perky foliage. Even if it doesn't, I don't mind that so much because I know it went to seed, and there will be more seeds that once it cools off will germinate here. And I like its kind of limey green presence. So I'm going to clean this up in this entire area right here. After I'm all finished working in this bed, I'm going to spray everything with this Dr. Earth insect killer because it will work on spider mites. Did you get that, Stuart? I'll try to remember to put a link below. So I've got another mound over here. Spider mite in my garden at the end of the season, along with whitefly, is pretty much guaranteed to be a problem. And so instead of doing tons of spraying and such, and of course I don't want to use any bad chemicals, I find that I just kind of cut things back and try to make it look more presentable. So I'm going to spray also this boxwood in the area in case it may have had some hitchhiking spider mites on it. I'll kind of cut back this underplanting of thyme. So that's just a little bit of tending, a little bit of garden grooming. What I really want to tackle is this area in here. Now, number one, I see that lots of these coneflowers need to be deadheaded, and some of them I have allowed to already dry enough so that I can scatter these seeds this fall. So those seed heads I am going to save. I usually save them in these little metal containers, and then I can share them with others. I think that's enough. I can scatter them and start them for this fall. Now, the rest of them just look kind of ungainly. This is just basically purple echinacea, common coneflower. It's a prairie native, and I'm going to start in this area by just trying to encourage maybe one more flush of bloom, and I'll either get it or I won't get it, but at least I'll get rid of this tattered foliage. Now, one thing I do want to answer for you guys is a question that I get more often than I would think, because it never even comes to my mind generally, and that is, don't I worry about snakes in the garden? Well, mine's an urban garden, so typically, no, I don't worry about them, though at the beginning of the season, I did see a garden snake, but just a little happy garden snake that looks like a big worm to me is welcome in my garden because it'll just eat bugs and probably aerate the soil. So now, under here, I'm just going to get rid of whatever I don't want growing under here. And remember, even if it's a real plant, if it's not in the right place, it's a weed. So I've got some of this nasty Virginia creeper coming up. I had some limelight artemisia that I planted a while ago that went absolutely crazy. It still comes up back here. Here's a little garden anthropology, you guys. Here is an old crepe myrtle that I thought was gone. And it's still back here. Maybe if I get a little more light to it, it will do something. If it doesn't, I'll just move it. So, now in here, I've got enough room kind of to work with. So I'm going to start out because I want the form of this Weigela, and this is, I believe, a rubies and gold Weigela. It is one of my favorite flowering shrubs. It blooms beautifully in the spring with these wonderful fuchsia colored blooms that hummingbirds and pollinators love. It's got this wonderful golden foliage. And then this year, because we've had so much rain, it's put out repeat bloom, which it doesn't always do. In really hot summers, which is practically every summer here in Oklahoma, Stuart, can you show up close what the foliage does? It begins to burn like this, burn and bleach out. When it's nice and we get rain and it's not too hot, it just looks pretty and fresh. So I get what I get, and I can't control Mother Nature. So this here is hanging a little bit low. I'm going to take it off. Even if it looks fresh, I'm still going to take it off because I want to elevate this canopy. And basically when I say elevate the canopy or raise the canopy, it means I'm just trying to get more room down below and have more of the foliage and flowers up high. Okay, these grow in these arching pendulous branches. Can you see that? So it really kind of naturally is going to take on an umbrella shape, but I want to encourage that even more. So I'm going to take things off that are breaking the umbrella form or that are growing too low. So on this one, I'll take it all the way back to here. This one you can see has really gotten large and broken form. So I'm going to cut it way back. Now, in terms of when you normally prune any kind of blooming shrub, you're going to prune after bloom. In this case, though, I am pruning for shape rather than for shape and size rather than for more bloom. So I'm not really cutting off any or sacrificing any flowers for next season. Because not only do I not care if this section blooms, I just don't want it to be here at all. Okay. Now, Stuart, if you can show everyone under here how it's starting to expose, as I always say, the architecture and the trunks and the beauty of the form of the plant itself. Now, as a tip, you guys, I don't know what the typical mature height on this particular variety is, but what I have found in my zone, which is zone 7, that if a plant is happy, once it gets established, it practically always is going to exceed whatever the published height is of how mature a plant is supposed to get. So in this case, as you can see, it's really, really rambunctious. And if I take this off right here, Stuart, can you see that? This is one of those really very satisfying cuts because immediately you can see a difference. Those are my favorite kind of cuts. It's immediate gratification, very cathartic. I've said it over and over again. The other thing is a lot of these really vigorous branches are starting to impede the growth and the form of things growing behind them. Stuart, if you can kind of show them behind it, you see there's a juniper behind there that has completely lost its shape. Was a three-tiered topiary, and I'm going to try to recapture at least the top two balls of it. Can you see that now, Stuart? Because it had been shaded out by all of this vigorous growth. That was a good one. Okay. Some of you have mentioned and have emailed me that once you start pruning, you can't stop. I can really relate to that sentiment, very much so, because it is so gratifying and it's not difficult. It doesn't require a lot of muscle power. Requires a little bit of artistry, but nothing that is really too difficult. Even though it's a steamy morning, I haven't broken a sweat yet. That will come. Okay, so I have some big loppers that I will use to clean out and take off some of these studs here, and I will do that. All of this nasty Virginia creeper that's coming up through here, violets that have gone to seed, any kind of foliage in here that might be diseased. I've got some tree volunteers. There's always lots of tree volunteers back in here. If any of them look like they have topiary potential, I'll save them. But I don't see anything back here. Now another thing this does, you guys, is it will get better air circulation under here. It will clean up areas where pests could hide. I should have done this earlier in the season, but I was kind of busy. You see, it doesn't really take that long. And what I'm going to do is just use my fingers to hand rake all of this to the back. And I will come back when I have my bucket with me, or my basket for debris. I'll clean all that up. So it looks considerably tidier underneath here. I don't really see any evidence. I see some roly-polies down in here, but I really don't see evidence of any slugs or snails in this spot. This, by the way, you guys, is a cotoneaster, and it makes a wonderful full sun evergreen shrub that puts out huge arching branches. I've got some pecan trees coming up in here that have no doubt been planted by squirrels. Okay, so I've got this area done. Now I am working up a sweat because it was pretty steamy under there. Not only do the plants need air circulation, you guys, the gardener needs air circulation too. So I'm going to step back. Wow, that looks considerably better. Now, One more thing. Okay, point to that shrub closely, Stuart, because this is, I'm at a decision point right here. I can completely remove, stand back. Tell me, Stuart, if I'm right. I could completely remove this entire stalk, I think, this entire trunk, and I wouldn't have broken the form of the Weigela. Shake your head yes or no.
Let it go.
Let it go?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty much. So if I take this entire cane off, and when I say entire cane, I mean this whole thing.
There you go.
Well, sometimes life happens, which tells me that was a weak branch. So I think what I'm going to do, because I really want to get light under here, I'm going to go ahead and take that off. And take that off, because in addition to wanting to prune this up, I also want room over here to plant. I've got a hydrangea, a reblooming cherry hydrangea over here, and I think now that I've created space, I'll be able to plant it in here next to one that already exists. So right now, you guys, that's all I'm going to do, because I need to do some more assessment. I might take this one all the way to the ground. If I decide to do that, I will need a more powerful pair of pruners than what I have now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed working in the garden in this rubies and gold Weigela bed. And once I get it planted and finished clearing out all of the debris, we'll come back and revisit it. You guys have a great day.